Hi, if you're listening, we'll be get started in a minute or so. So just hold on.
We are live now.
Yeah, just hold on 1 second and we'll get started. I'm about to cough, so I've just got to stop for it. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so welcome back to Marketing Futures Lead Talk series. Lead Talk is an idea that we came up with in pre-COVID times, a long, long time ago in what was called 2019. We used to run sessions whenever I was visiting Dhaka, where we would pull together 5 or 6 marketing experts, usually for an after-dinner conversation, where we put together a theme and talk about something that was relevant at the time. Of course, in 2020, we've had to change all of that and do virtual sessions. We've done a number of those over the last few months, where we brought together a few experts from inside Bangladesh and occasionally outsiders as well, to have a reflection on what's happening during COVID times. We've had sessions where we talked about the immediate impact of COVID. We've had sessions where we talked about creativity and creative messaging in COVID times. We've had sessions where we've talked about health and health marketing in COVID times. And tonight what we wanted to do was to focus a little bit more, now that we've all lived through months and months of lockdowns and COVID and good news and bad news and troubling times, that we wanted to start thinking about what we've been learning and about the way in which that might start to change marketing going forward. So Faiz is with me, my buddy and co-founder of Marketing Futures. Faiz, do you want to introduce our guests?
Thank you very much, Dave. First of all, I would like to thank Dave, Mr. Khaled Hassan, and Mr. Urfi Ahmed to join this program. And let me introduce the guest. Mr. Dave McGowan, who will be chairing today's show, is the co-founder of Marketing Futures and Chief Strategy Officer of AI Agency. Dave has worked for more than 2 decades in senior management roles of McCann World Group, where he used to head the strategic planning and consumer insight. A thought leader who has mastered in understanding people and how they can be turned into consumers. Our next guest, Mr. Khaled Hassan, Dr. Khaled Hassan is the CEO of Reston Canada, an international market research company, a Six Sigma Black Belt with 25 years in market research, worked at Nielsen in South Asia and Canada, did research for many Fortune 500 MNCs and international organizations. He is actively involved with World Marketing Summit Group, founded by marketing guru Philip Kotler. We have Urfi Ahmed, who is the Communication and Brand Director of Bangalink. Urfi has an extensive experience in branding and brand communication and has worked in markets like Bangladesh, Malaysia with Grey Worldwide. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on board. Off to you, Dave.
Yeah, so, one of the things that's been striking me in the last month or so as I look around the marketing world is, we continue to hear people talking about the new normal, which I'm never too sure what that actually means. I think, as we've discussed on maybe some of these sessions before, that what we're calling the new normal is maybe the sped up version of something we thought was going to happen. And what's happened is COVID has made it more normal. I've also heard a lot of conversations about the idea that in terms of marketing, things will never be the same again. And maybe in some ways we are adapting and changing, of course, but the central tenet of marketing, understanding what people want or what they're worried about, what they desire, what they fear, and then figuring out a way in which your brand or service can help them. That's not changing. The tactics perhaps are changing. And then at the same time, again, of course, in terms of tactics, because of things that we've been forced to adjust to, many of us working home for months. Urfi would tell us in a minute about his desire to get out of his apartment, I think. And then all these months sitting at home or sitting inside buildings, all these months of having to learn to use all these types of online platforms a lot better, of course, are changing some of the ways in which we message. So what we wanted to do tonight was just to take some time to talk about what we're learning inside Bangladesh and maybe some things we're learning from outside as well that may be affecting the way in which marketers go forward in the future. So maybe we can get started. Urfi, I know before we came online, you were just saying how you've been working from home now since right at the beginning of March, right? So, yeah, lucky you. Yeah. So, first of all, tell us, like, what have you learned from all these months sitting at home and trying to get work done? What personally have you learned from that?
Okay, I mean, learned. Oh, okay. I look at this work from home paradigm. There's two ways of looking at it, and I was just talking about it today in one of our seminars that we have with the marketing guys at Banglalink. Is that there is an idea of work from home which was pre-COVID-19, and there is an idea of work from home which is current, and to some degree also post-COVID-19, if there is a post at any time. Pre-COVID-19, the idea of work from home was, it's so nice. I get to stay home, I get to work, I get to do whatever I want, and I work at my own time. But what's happened actually, and as companies have been forced to adopt a work from home strategy, what's happened is that the reality of work from home in a pandemic situation is so different because when it's work from home, everyone's home. You don't get to go out. You're stuck. You're stuck with the wife or the husband or the kids and whatnot. And especially in a place like Bangladesh, the middle classes and above are very reliant on household chores being done by hired help. And there's two kinds of hired help. There's the in-house, the live-in ones, and there's the ones that come, they do the work, and they leave at night. What happened with COVID-19 is that the help that used to come in from outside, that stopped. So here were people working from home and also having to take care of the household chores. And this cuts across both roles, both the husband and the wife and whatnot, because none of them had to do that much household chores while working. So that's one impact that has happened. And I think one thing that I talk to with my teams about is that to me, this work from home is I'm not sure about the psychological long-term effect of what's going to happen down the line, because I don't think any work has been done on that, or people thinking about, because it's let me tell you the first month. In the first month of work from home, there were no boundaries. We used to get meetings at 10 p.m., 12 a.m. People used to call at all times of the day. It was just crazy. There was no boundaries. So, and then the realization hit that, just because we're home doesn't mean we should be accessible. So we've done some sort of, self-regulation and all that. So there's that effect. There's the effect of doing all these household chores and whatnot. And there's all the other added stresses of, am I safe? Someone's coming and all that. So I would say one thing that I've learned from work from home is that, I don't think a pandemic situation work from home is healthy for human beings. And this is more of a personal realization in the sense that I think human beings are naturally sociable human beings. I mean, we like socializing. We like hanging out. We don't want to stuck at home. And that's been denied. So that's one outcome. That's one learning. And honestly, until this situation eases up, I don't see that changing because there's a fear that's been internalized by people, a fear of getting sick, and there are people all around us who have been affected. A lot of people have died, some people have been infected and then recovered, so that fear is real. But the markets are opening up, and what's happening is that the companies are also adjusting. I think one great outcome, unfortunate as it may be, of COVID-19 is that companies have started valuing or giving more value to the well-being of their employees, more than they did so in the past. In the past, you had medical insurance and you had all that, but now it's more about mental well-being. And also, when this situation eases and people start going back to work at some point, like yesterday, my wife started going back to work. She works at a multinational, and what they've done is they have put barricades, plastic barricades amongst all the cubicles. They have said that not more than 4% can enter the lift. They are doing deep cleaning every 2 weeks, twice a week, and disinfecting every day. So these are all for the betterment of the employees. And I think that's a good outcome, that companies are taking more stock in their employees, because, under this situation, it's also really difficult to get in new recruits. Like, we have a recruitment freeze currently, mainly because in this situation, luckily there's been no retrenchment or anything, but things have sort of come to a standstill. So my biggest learning from, I'd say, the work from home situation, and this has nothing to do with the branding or marketing part, it's more that companies are investing more in the employees than they did before. And I think that is healthy, even though it's an unhealthy situation. And I think value and also internal communication has become key, because the companies need to tell their people what's going on. It needs to be more transparent. It needs to be more clear. It needs to be direct. That is also, I think, unprecedented in our time, especially in Bangladesh, where most companies prefer a very hierarchical method of working. But I think there's also been a more democratization that's happened across companies. And not just multinationals.
Even local companies. I think as I look around and I hear these sort of stories everywhere, it's true. Last week I came across an interesting little piece of research. Somebody was running a poll, and they were asking people in different countries on a scale of sort of 1 to 10, where 1 was work back at the office and 10 was work full-time from home. Where did most people want to be in the future? And it was interesting because actually the great majority of people were somewhere from saying, give me like maybe 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, right? Now, one of the reasons for that was seeing as you say, the advantages and disadvantages of working from home. And yes, we're working from home at the moment, many of us under the worst of circumstances. But there's also the learning too that companies are making. And a simple learning was brought up to me by a friend in Japan, who said to me, well, there's the smoking break. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, the thing I miss most about work is the smoking break. Now, this is why he missed it. It's a valid point. He said, and when you think about this, if you think about normal work life, whether you smoke or not, but it's the accidental idea making that happens, not in sitting in meetings, not going to brainstorm sessions, but like when you're standing around the coffee pot, or you're breaking for a tea break, or you're going to have a smoke with your colleagues, and you accidentally have these conversations that lead to, hey, what are you working on? Well, I'm working on this. Oh, and that leads to ideas, right? And it sort of brings up that whole factor that the working from home thing, as you say, I think a lot of companies, like you said, went through this thing of the first month we had crazy hours, and then some organizations started to control that a little bit better, some not. Some more caring employers started to worry about it a little bit. But at the same time, what's happened is that we got used to, for example, doing lots of sessions like this on StreamYard or Zoom or whatever. But that's different because they're planned sessions, right? It's different from the casual interface. And I think that's one of the things that maybe, that's the next stage for employers to think about it. How do you help your employees work as social life as well, right? I mean,
I mean, that's the other thing that's come about, is that in certain areas, the teamwork has suffered. Because before, we have 2 teams in Bangladesh. We have a brand team and we have a media team. And we should just discuss stuff across the table. I wanted to know something, I'd go to this guy and say, hey, what's going on? He'd come to me and say, this is going on, and updates. Now, those regular update sessions are not happening. So people are lost. The brand guys don't know what the media guys are doing. The media guys don't know what the brand guys are doing, because now it takes an effort. You need to set up a call, So I think teamwork has been slightly disruptive. It's disruptive.
I think you're probably right.
And
so, Khalid, what about from your experiences and background, folks? Khalid is sitting in Toronto. By the way, I'm sitting in Sydney tonight doing this. So this is truly a global event. I don't know what time it is in Toronto. I've lost track. So it's definitely not nighttime. But Khalid, what do you think? Work from home, for example. What do you think we're learning from about work from home from the different studies you've seen and the different companies you interface with?
Thank you, Dave. Working from home. I won't say this is a new thing, but majority of the people, they're accepting it. That is the development. Let me give you one example, Dave. This is from my personal experience. 3 years ago, when we submitted proposal from Canada to Bangladesh, one of my clients, he said, how come you can do this research? You are sitting 26,000 miles away from Bangladesh. So you will not be able to do it. I tried to make him convince, okay, I will do this way. My team is there and every day I will have the Skype call and so on. But I couldn't make him convinced. Anyway, then since we got the job, I had to fly the next day. That's immediately after the Eid day. This is one of the biggest festivals of the Muslim community worldwide. So I had to fly the following day to Bangladesh, and when I reached there, in Bangladesh is a 7 days or 10 days is a vacation mood, but I was there away from my family and everybody, just to make happy to my client, because that was my first job in the last 3 years with a Bangladeshi client. So I had to go. But now you see the other way. Just 2 weeks ago, he sent me an email with an RFP, and he proposed if I can be with his team. Now he hasn't asked me whether I will be 26,000 miles away or not. He is not asking, because he is now educated. He knows all about it, and he knows that this is the way of working, no matter whether I'm in Toronto or he is in Bangladesh. And this is for every client. You see, Dave, I had to face this problem because I'm based in Canada, and doing any research in Bangladesh, that's the first question from the client. As a team leader, how you are going to do it. But now, if I say that I'll be in Bangladesh next week, the client will say, hey, you're not smart enough.
Yeah.
You're not smart enough. Why will you come here? You don't need it.
I have to tell you, Khalid, the same experience. So, as Faya says, one of the things I do is I'm a member of what I call a collective called AI Agency. Yeah. And AI Agency is a group of individuals like me that work together on different projects. Now, the truth is, those individuals I normally live in Bangkok, one's in Sydney, one's in Tokyo, one's in Dallas, in Texas. Some of these people I've never actually met in the flesh, but we have a sort of company, but we've always called it a virtual company. And by that, I mean, we literally don't have an address. We literally don't have a phone number. We do everything over the internet. And we never tell people, where we're based, because it's irrelevant, right? Now, for the last 4 years, since we started that group, every time we got a client or prospective client, well, what's your address? Well, we don't have an address. Well, but you must have an address. No, we don't have an address. Now, do we have a registered trademark somewhere? Yes, but we don't tell anybody where it is because it doesn't matter. If you want to contact us, you have to contact us through the internet. That's how we work, right? It's in the name. It's called AI Agency. You would think people would understand that, right? But what's interesting now this year, as you say, nobody's asking me questions. Nobody cares. Nobody cares where you're based anymore. As long as they like to know they can actually see your face, right? So that's about it, right? So it's a big shift. It's a big shift in that sense.
Dave, you
Now,
see, you're exactly correct. You see, the definition of smartness, business smartness, is totally changed now. You see, if you say, I don't know what is Zoom, people will jump. Hey, what are you talking about? If you say, I, I don't know how to connect it, they will say, oh, you're still 20 years back. So
right.
this is the thing you see, working from anywhere, to be connected, working for the client, working for yourself, working for a family, and to be 24/7, to be connected. This is the world of connectivity. You cannot ignore it, Dave. So this is the thing we will have to. This is the biggest change, I must say. And everybody now, we are in a race to learn,
Yeah,
e-learning. Dave, let me give you another good example. You know, World Marketing Summit.
sure.
They are going to organize, perhaps this would be the largest e-conference where 80 around 80 professors and researchers and corporates, they will be the speaker on November 6th. You see, 80 speakers in 2 days. They will be joining at different time. You will have the opportunity to enter in any of the sessions. It is like a warehouse. You go and you buy whatever you like. It's like a superstore. Go and buy. So 80 speakers will be speaking all over the world, and including there will be some presidents, prime ministers. They'll be also giving messages and so on. So this is, you see, everybody in the world, they have their opportunity to listen to their choices. It never happened before. If it is offline, you cannot invite 80 speakers in one show, right? You cannot. But now it's your choice, and moreover, it is recorded. You can listen to that one time, two times, 100 times. So these are a lot of things due to this is the changes. Of course,
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, Khalid. Of course, the downside is that up until this year, for the last 5 years since I left working for a big corporation, a good part of my year, as Fayez knows, was traveling to different parts of the world, talking at conferences where people would kindly pay the airfare for me to go, and then they were forced to listen to me talk. Well, that was great for me because that was a way for me to travel the world, and somebody else was paying for it. Now all I get to do is free Zoom sessions. It's not quite the same, right?
It's boring now for you.
But I have to say, it's been an experience too to learn. I mean, I've moderated, I've spoken at, I'm organising a couple more, as you say, big giant global Zoom-based conferences, and it's an experience. But you talked about connectivity. So, Urfi, your company's core business is connecting people, right?
Yeah.
And so how have you seen all of this affecting, obviously your business, right? Bangla Link's business and what you do.
Well, just to add to one thing which Khalid was saying about the definition of smartness, it's definitely changed. But I'd also say that what has come along with it is acceptance that is what business smartness is. Before certain quarters, there'd be resistance, because you have companies who have invested a lot of money in their own real estate, doing up the office, administration, and all that, and all of that goes out the window right now. So I think that's one of the one learning that we have. In terms of connectivity, what's happened, I think it's happened for all companies who are in the business of providing connection, is that we have seen a surge in our data consumption. It's gone up significantly. In fact, we've done better than we used to do in the past. And that's because, I would say that the primal need for people to stay connected has risen. Because in times of crisis, in times of when people are uncertain and they're fearful, they want to stay connected more than before. So whether it's through a WhatsApp call or whether it's through a Zoom session or whatnot, those things have on one hand there's this whole connection thing, and the other one is also because you're stuck at home. It's also the entertainment that has gone up. So
Sure.
Overall data consumption, I say the telcos are not doing bad. I think we're one of the only industry. Well, I don't know if we're the only industry, but we are an industry that has not retrenched. We have not let anybody go. In fact, we are also looking to recruit in certain areas. I think we are largely, I wouldn't say, I mean, from a business point of view, I wouldn't say it's all rosy. There have been downturns. We have a voice business and we're a data business, so they balance each other out. So in terms of overall revenue, there's a balancing act. I wouldn't say we overall we're doing super well, but we're not hurting. And I think that's the same for most telcos, most people in the business of connection. So what we've seen is this need for people to stay connected and people also to be entertained. And another thing that's happened is that, and this is unique. I don't know if puzzled is the right word, but people that you have not connected with over the years, for ages, you suddenly are talking to them.
Yeah.
And it's across the board. It's happening everywhere. It's happened even with see, I have a Viber group with my school friends, people I went to school with, say 25 years ago, and we've always chatted on Viber. But suddenly we saw the need to have a Zoom call. I mean, after all these years, it's never happened. And so, Zoom calls have been happening. And then with when I was in the agency, I was in an agency called Gray for about 10 plus years. My ex-boss suddenly decided, we also have a WhatsApp group, the ex-Gray WhatsApp group. So suddenly we decided, let's do a Zoom call. There was never a need for it before.
Yeah.
I don't know why that need has sprung up. Maybe it's just because, people are seeking deeper connection. The connection before was on a very sort of functional or sort of a clinical level. You do WhatsApp, you do Viber, but actually seeing each other is different. So, so I'd say that has come about quite surprisingly for me. The need to build connections, and I think that is where, if you talk about marketing and if you talk about branding, from a company point of view, from a brand point of view, that's where I think brands play a very crucial role in telling people how they can achieve these connections while staying true to their brand. For us, it's relatively easy because we're in the business of connection. But for a brand that's selling shoes, what do they do? For a brand that's selling hardware, how do you do it? So I think what needs to happen is that people or companies need to not sort of change the way they do everything, but they just need to refocus because the spends are not really going down. There's this freeze on certain spends, but what you spend on marketing will be spent anyways. It's just being channeled somewhere else.
Right.
Maybe more in digital, more in website development, own media, and all that. So, and that's what we've done at Banglalink. We have put a lot more focus on our digital channels. We've put a lot more focus on communicating the ease of how you can connect with us or how you can, buy a data pack and whatnot. So I think, it's been good in terms of getting people together, even though the circumstances are unfortunate. And I think now that people are sort of used to are more digitally aware, I think one of the learnings for a post-COVID-19 situation is that that is not going to go away. People are still going to stay alert or stay more focused on digital. Because now people are used to it and it's easy and it's convenient. That's not going to change. What's probably going to change is that going to a physical store is going to lessen. People will do more research online to understand, say, if I want to buy a hi-fi system, I will research more online to understand exactly what I want. And then I just go to the store and make the purchase instead of going to the store and asking the salesman, show me this, show me this. That's a change. And I think companies need to really wake up to that they need to relook at the balance between how they communicate or how they talk about themselves in the digital sphere versus the physical sphere. They really need to up their digital game, I'd say.
Yeah, and as you say, the integration of online offline.
Yeah,
I think in every market in the world, in China, we're obviously the most advanced online shopping market in the world by far. But even there, we've seen a lot of stuff speed up, and I think in every marketplace, wherever it was, that combination is just going to speed up dramatically about the way in which marketers have to think about that.
it's
So
already
I've got a question here, Urfi and Dave, both of you, is that I was just thinking that what is going to happen to the traditional medias? They're going to be totally obsolete or what? Or
No,
extinct?
okay. I can speak from Bangladesh's experience.
Right.
I mean, we are not. 80% of our awareness comes from TV. TV is still a very
Right.
relevant media for us.
Right.
So what's happened is, and not the whole population doesn't have access to a digital ecosystem, because there's issues with connectivity, there's issues with coverage and all that, and also affordability. So what's happened is TV viewership has gone up significantly, um, and companies have also started spending more on TV. So for a country like Bangladesh, which is not as developed as say Singapore or China or Japan, TV or traditional media still plays a significant role. But what's happened interestingly is print media has gone down because
Right.
of the concern, I'm touching something, I might get affected. But TV has gone up significantly. More people are on TV,
Because
less
they are
people
living more at home. That's the reason, I think. People are living more at home, so the TV
so it's
habit
about,
has gone. And
there's
especially, I've observed one thing is that the news which takes place in the TV has become a very important program now.
definitely right. All our media research indicates that news has come up significantly. But during festival seasons, like say we had Eid a few last month,
Yeah, a few weeks ago, yeah.
entertainment goes up.
Yeah, of course.
It's a balancing act. But TV for a country like Bangladesh is still one of the most important media, followed by digital, and then POSM and retail has become a bit. It's opening up. The first 2 months it was a struggle, but now the markets are opening up. So we're going to see a balancing out, I'd say, of retail and traditional media.
So, Khalid, maybe what are you seeing in the different work you see from different countries and stuff? What are you seeing in terms of the way in which marketing has adapted and will continue to change going forward?
You see, Dave, what Urfi just mentioned, that we'll have to refocus, and it's a boundaryless. He mentioned about there's no boundaries, a boundaryless marketing, boundaryless education, boundaryless of consultancy.
Yeah.
Everything is now it's a global. Uh, it is like, as I said, you can buy anything now from anywhere in the world. So the thing is, Urfi has rightly mentioned that there's the negative impacts, psychological, the anxiety, fear of losing job, fear of uh, economic recession, fear of even dying. You never know the health issues. So these are the negative part of it. For any pandemic, it is there. We can't ignore it. The thing is how fast we can change ourselves. It is painful, it is happening for the last 100 years, and all of a sudden you are saying the next day, hey, you will have to be digital, digitally transform your whole business. It's not that easy. The first the we can move forward, that is we will be able to survive. So that is the thing. Let me give you some examples. Here in Canada, we have seen most of the service sectors, like the banks, they have started promoting very much online banking. So, and the younger generations, they love it. I attended one of the webinars recently. It is based on data. The younger generations, they are loving these changes because they are much more casual than those who are 40 or 50 plus or 60 plus. They want to be in always very casual mode, happy go sort of. So, and they are much more digitally much more advanced.
Advanced.
I would say intelligent, but they're advanced. Dave, another thing, let me give another example. I'm sure that it is also in Bangladesh. Here, there in Canada, there are two options for the school-going kids. From 15th of September, all the schools in Toronto will be open. And there's the two options: whether you go to the school, send your kids to the school, or you can have online. No problem. So the kids, those will not be going to the schools, and they will have their online education at very similar to that one, offline and online. These kids, they will be much more, they will learn how to study from home automatically, and they will never be, you will never be pushing back to pre-COVID. It's not possible. So e-learning is there already. So this generation, when after 5 years or 10 years, think about the digital or e-learning capability. What generation are going to be in the world? Think about it, not today. Think about after 5 years or 10 years. The young, the student who is 17 or 18 today, he is used to with this the digital online shopping, online education, online business, and so on. So he will be used to it, and you can't tell him, hey, unlearn what you learned.
Yeah, can't change things backwards.
It will be a permanent change. So the marketing companies or any other company, they will have to address it. There's a thing. The important thing is how you stay relevant. That all matters. Dave, let me give you another example. Recently, this is the focus, how it's changing in business. Let me give you about what's called a health issue. Okay, hospital. If anybody wants to go to the hospital today, the first question it will come in your mind or in my mind to see the real-time data, real-time, right now. So you will ask somebody, hey, do you know any how the hospital? I don't want to mention any brand name. So you will look at it. Okay, the issue is the safe. Is it you can come back alive? You can say that hospital, they have done a research customer satisfaction survey last year done by, say, Nielsen or Resint or Kantar or Millward Brown, and they are number one in Bangladesh or in Asia or in Africa, wherever it is. You will say, hey, forget about customer satisfaction survey done 2 years back. Who cares? I need right now. Because that old data, old branding, that is gone. Now, if you see something, even a smaller hospital, no one knows. But if you know that, yes, my friend, he was admitted yesterday and or a week ago, and he returned. He's safe. Doctors are safe. It's nothing happened, and you will go there, right? So
this raises a very good question.
Definition,
Khalid.
It
raises a good question, Khalid. But you're in the market research business. I spend a lot of my time in the market research business in different ways, but we're both in the same sort of game. Fayez does. Urfi's obviously a great customer of market research in his organization. But that's because, market research, of course, is an industry that's gone through tremendous change this year. Simply because, well, for example, traditionally, I imagine, I know for a fact in a lot of your work in Bangladesh and other markets in Asia, you would have been doing a lot of traditional surveys, right? You can't do face-to-face surveys anymore. Can't do face-to-face focus groups anymore. Market research basically has literally in 6 months become something we do mostly on these things, right? In some form. And as you say, I find it very interesting because, I've mostly been playing in the last few years with, I won't say leading edge, but more not traditional techniques, right? And it's been very hard to get people interested in those things. But suddenly this year, of course, is, well, we can't do traditional techniques. And by the way, doing quarterly or 6 monthly or annual surveys, like who cares? Because 3 months is, well, that's 1,000 years ago now. So who cares about 3 months, right? So how do you find it's changing, like your business or the way in which clients are reacting on what kind of research are they looking for now?
Jay, this is a very, very important question for any research companies. Digital transformation is the only solutions, because in this, the social distancing the situation, face-to-face interview is not possible as such. You cannot go. Even if you go, it will sometimes it will be bias, because in research, bias is an important element. If there's bias, the data will not be accepted. Previously, face to face is okay. You can go, you can chat, or whatever you want. But now, even the respondents, they will not feel good, right? So that's the issue we will have to consider. So now, what next? That is through mobile or Zoom or whatever it is, and we have started moving to that direction. We have, not for us only, resin, but I believe in all the large companies, research companies, they have the database. So they will have to use this database. Through that, they will have to contact the client online or over mobile, and then collecting the data. Here, Dave, let me give you two examples. One is it's a Canadian company. His name is Revi. We have a very good partnership with them. They have done business, in the last 6-7 months. It is more than pre-COVID. It's where the companies are struggling for revenue, but they are generating 2 times, 3 times, maybe 3 times. Why? The reason is they have gone for web-based data collection. Even they have collected data from Afghanistan. They have collected from Syria. So they have the technology, and they are collecting data. Now, you can ask me again another question, whether that data is statistically representative.
Relevant. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it is not, because the people, those who have only the internet connection, they are in their sampling frame. But what to do? Sometimes you will have to compromise with something, right? So at least you have some data, and the marketing companies, they're happy with that. At least they can see something. If you want to do some research among the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh, it's impossible. You can go there. So forget it, what to do. So sometimes you will have to ignore that. This for our company. Before COVID, we did a survey that's for an American university among the farmers we did, and that was face to face. They were happy. But luckily, what we did at that time, we collected their phone number, their address, their demographic profile, and so on. So now that client wants to know more about how they are right now. They asked me whether it's possible. I said, yes, we have the data, we have their phone number. So what I can do, from that larger sample, I will randomly pick, say, out of, say, 2,000, I will randomly take, say, 500. So your randomness would be there, which will be satisfied, because that study was done considering all the statistical formula and so on. So from there, we will call all the respondents over phone, and we will start asking them. So the same thing, and I believe they will be happy. So then the client asked me, do you think they will agree on that? I said, yes, they should. And if they ask for the time cost and so on, maybe we can give them the time cost, the mobile cost. So that can be, but it is. So now we are doing over phone, and that is the client has accepted. Considering these current limitations, you have no other choice. So
Sure.
This is the thing. So worldwide now changing in two directions. One, web-based through Facebook and so on they have, and those who don't have that access, they go to the database. If they have the huge database, from there randomly collecting and asking through mobile. So Urfi will be happy to know that now more people will be now using mobile. Their business revenue will definitely go up.
Yeah.
I mean,
So this is the thing.
Khaled,
And the focus group, this is with Zoom or anything, but again it goes. And another, not only you have to have the laptop, you can use through mobile. So
Sure.
this is happening.
Zoom can be a solution for FGDs also now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's limitations to all these things. I think we're learning. I know that it just happens that this year I've worked on a couple of projects that were multi-country projects, and that involved doing lots of focus groups across a few different Southeast Asian countries and Australia. And it's just been really interesting to see, as we've been trying to do focus groups via Zoom, working with a couple of big famous, research companies that the client organised, how techniques are quickly changing and how people are learning the limitations of what you can do on Zoom in terms of course, you can ask people questions and watch their face, but you don't get much interaction between the people on the call, etc.
I think this culture has already started, because I was watching FGD of JWT. They were in Asiatic. They were doing a Zoom FGD for GSK. Horlicks. My wife attended that session, so I was just watching it, and I found it very good, because one of the advantages, while I was asking my wife, is that, what do you think of this? Well, this is much more convenient, because when people used to go for physical kind of FGDs, there was a hassle of getting the respondents, traveling.
But I'll tell you the downside, players, and it's something. It refers to something that Wolfie said right at the beginning about how we're sort of overwork or trying to do too much. I had a position like 2 weeks ago where I was, for a particular client, they had focus groups happening in Manila, Bangkok, and Melbourne all at the same time. And I was literally sitting at my desk at home with 3 different screens, trying to watch 3 different focus groups in 3 different cities. Obviously, the one in Thailand, the one in Bangkok, was being done in Thai, so I had to listen through a translator. I'm trying to listen to the one in Manila, where people, as they do in the Philippines, they keep on switching between English and Tagalog. And then, I'm listening to one in Melbourne. And of course, what happens, because I've been an Australian, but not living in Australia for so long, whenever I'm listening to Australian focus groups, I'm more interested in what's the latest slang than I am in what they're actually saying, But it was a very strange sort of situation of like, but that again is something we can do. So to go back to that theme though, obviously, because a company like Banglalink has huge databases, right? Millions of people. How do you find all this is affecting the way in which you go about figuring out what to ask, who you're asking, the decision making of those, how you're using all that data that you have available?
I mean, the data that we have, again, it's not the kind of data that we would use for research. That's not the kind of data we have. We're more demographic data and all that. So if we really want to do a qualitative research in understanding, what are people thinking about the brand? What do they feel we're doing right, wrong? Do they like this logo or not? That's very difficult to assess. So we're facing the same problem, or a problem in getting that sort of research going. We wanted to do, because we are focusing a lot more on our online platforms, we wanted to conduct this research amongst consumers about, we have this self-care app and we put all our creators up there. So we wanted to understand, how are they accepting it? Do they like the colors? Because there's a certain sort of design element or design language that goes into designing UX platforms. Right. But we're following it from a brand point of view. So we want to do that research, and the research agency said, it's really difficult to get the right respondents. Bangladesh is still not ready, or still not has moved completely. Sure, there are, if you go to, if you look at brands that are in the market, it's easy and involved consumer. But for a brand like Banglalink, where it's a mass consumer, it's difficult to find people who would come to a place to do the Zooming, because obviously they won't do it from their phones. So no, I think we still have a long ways to go in terms of a mass audience, and the kind of data that we have is more in terms of informs more of our CVM activities. what are people looking to buy, when are they buying it, how many SMSs should we send, and all of that. So we haven't evolved that yet into sort of qualitative or quantitative consumer insights per se. But having said that, I mean, just to touch upon a theme that I had talked about earlier, which is about the hybrid experience, where Dave, you'd also said, the digital and the physical, the balance that comes in. Just to give you an example that how people are, I think they expect more from a digital experience now. It has to not just fulfill, it has to elevate. It has to be almost similar to a physical experience for people to actually get into the brand. For example, when this whole COVID-19 situation started, I never worked from home, so I didn't have a desk, I didn't have a table, I didn't have a chair or whatnot. So I was going online, and I went to these brands that usually provide our office furniture, and their online experience was horrible. Because people are used to going to the retail store. So I picked this one brand that is in all the offices, and so they had an online catalog. And I was looking, okay, how can I place the order? You couldn't. You had to call them to place the order, quote the number. So I said, okay, fine, I'll do it because I like the brand. And I said, do you deliver? They don't deliver. I mean, wait, no, they do deliver, but they don't accept online payment. So in order to buy it, I had to go to the store, pay, and then they deliver. So as I'm saying, this hybrid experience needs to up its ante. Otherwise, brands that did really well because they had a very good physical presence are just going to not deliver. Because I was then forced to look for a brand that had an online payment system. So I went to this brand that I never used before, and I bought their chair because I could pay online, and they delivered. So yeah.
So what happened to you during this journey is that one part of the journey you couldn't get fulfilled because you have to go to the shop for pay, right?
Yeah, I mean, because the fulfillment comes, I think, from having a good experience online, and also the follow-up in terms of, okay, I've made my choices, I know what I want, I just want it delivered. I don't want to have to go to the store. I mean, because this is not a high involvement category. I mean, a chair is a chair is a chair. There's not very much difference. It's not like a high-face system. So I think brands really, and I think that's one of the post-COVID or what's next, is this hybrid experience needs to really, really take off for all brands. They just need to get their digital presence. It cannot be just a website, because that's what it was before.
It's changed. Our expectation has changed so much.
Yeah.
That when as you were talking about that, that your experience there with the furniture store, probably the three of us and everybody that's watching this or will watch this is going, how hopeless is that? Because you expect it, right? It doesn't matter if it's selling ice cream or furniture or suits or whatever. You just expect everything now to be sort of like a flawless, digital experience, right? So,
and
sorry, I was just going to say we've only got about 10 minutes, and I wanted to ask all three of you, including Fayez, to answer one, not so simple question, right? So it's September 1st, 2020, and most people around the world would like to go, wish we could just forget about 2020, right? But I want you to tell me, if you think about the last 8 months, and think about next year, when we're sitting on September 1st, 2021, what is going to be the best thing that came out of 2020 for marketers? What's the best thing that's happened? We can all talk about the problems. So what's the best thing that's happened? Right?
Oh, okay. I
think people realize the value of humanity.
Yeah.
I think.
How? Sorry, Fayez, just explain that a bit more.
Yeah.
It's more like what Urfi was saying. You see, the realization of getting more connected. That I think that has that's what I see has been a very important thing. Whether it is family, whether it is friends, whether it is colleague, the relationship, the bonding, the connectivity, that has came back, which was missing last few years, I think.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I'd add to what Faiz was saying. Um, what I think has happened, one of the good things that has happened is that brands are actually waking up to the fact that, it's not good enough to have a good brand story. It's not good enough just to be perceived as I give, I have a quality product. I have a brand that people love. I think it has to go deeper. I mean, now brands really need to understand and figure out uh, what positive role they have in the life of a customer, because unless they figure out that equation, because I think there needs to be a slight re-engineering of the image that a brand has to a customer. And before it was just like, oh, I provide a connection, but now, what does this connection do for me? You need to figure that out. You need to figure out the role, and then you just need to go there and tell consumers, this is how I play a role in your life. I think that sort of realization has intensified,
That's good.
or it's
That's
been
good.
brought to the front. You know what I mean? I mean,
It-
that's the way I see
you, you had me worried just for a minute there when you said I thought you meant we don't need brand stories anymore, but that
no.
worried me. No, that worried me because that's what I do for a living is create those, So, but I get what you mean, right?
I think the
Dave,
story needs to go
Dave.
deeper. It
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
it cannot be skin deep. It has
Dave.
to.
Yes, Khalid,
Yes,
please.
Khalid.
Yeah,
Yes, Khalid.
the best thing which I learned is thinking about self. That is the important thing about our health, about our purpose of living and working for the planet. No matter whether it is the brand issues or marketing issues or financial issues, everything. So we are thinking about ourselves, and if we think we can combine this we are thinking about our planet. For example, Dave, you see, even Black Lives Matters. This is the thing. It is now every big companies they're thinking about no discrimination. If you don't go with that, you'll be out of the race. So these are the things is has come during COVID. So these are the things that yes. And you see,
Yeah.
even working from home, I forgot to mention in Canada and America, a lot of the constructions of buildings is now they're stopped because no need, because more of the people now working from home. So you are saving the planet. You don't need to destroy plants so much, the trees. So a lot of things. This is we learned from this COVID.
Rahman,
Yeah, I was going to say my own thing would be something similar in that the one thing that really strikes me is that all of this has forced businesses, brands, their stories, they're telling of stories, to realistically look at things we've been talking about for a long time. I mean, we've talked about sustainability, we've talked about saving the planet, we talked about equality or opportunities for everybody. But what's happened is that a lot of these things have got crunched this year, and I think that's one of the interesting things is how it's going to be very hard because an awful lot of brands, Black Lives Matter, particularly for American brands, has become a big issue. Right? Sustainability has become a big issue. Health has become a big issue. Ulfi mentioned at the beginning, like your staff welfare has become such a big issue in so many ways. Well, it's very hard to go back out of that sort of stuff, right? It's going to be very hard for any organisation to suddenly turn around and say, well, that was last year's worry. Now I'm not really worried about staff, staff and equality and caring and Black Lives Matter. It's just that was last year's issues. These things are now embedded in the way we have to tell stories, the way in which we have to think about our brands and what we have to message, right? It's a really interesting discussion. I'm sure we could sit here all night. One last question, and I'll just get a really quick, like one-line answer from all of you. What do you think has been a brand, not your own, Ulfi, okay? But what has been a brand that you think has done a great job this year?
Oh. I think a brand. I can't think of any brand offhand, but I can think of an example of, like, for example, I can't remember the name of the brand, but It was one of those food brands where they understood that if you're stuck at home, you're still craving for a certain thing that was served at that restaurant. So they shared their recipe for this, their most popular thing. So it's giving the experience of not going out, but we're giving this to you as a brand because we care about your well-being. So can't recall the name of the brand offhand. I read it.
No. Yeah.
Dave, it's to me, Amazon and all their companies helping people during COVID, supplying everything at home, made their life easier during when we're locked down. So
I
to
think
me, it's just giving them Amazon.
right. I'll also go with Amazon. I've been watching their campaigns.
Not only, yes, Amazon and other like that. Those were with us during this the pandemic situation. Every day, 24/7.
And all those examples, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're all. I think whenever I ask that question, the examples that get thrown back at me are ones where companies are basically helping people cope and helping people, live a more comfortable life in trying times.
Yeah.
And that's the big learning, I think, for all markets, right? Is use the tech, be digital, etc. But first of all, just make sure that what you're doing is making life easier for people, and that's the gift to success.
But Dave, one thing, there are other companies, the frontline, even like the Walmart, if you say,
Yeah.
during COVID, they supplied all the conveniences, food, and
Sure.
the frontline workers. Even smaller companies, we don't know the brand name, but in particular area, they were the leader.
Well, I think that's what I meant. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a corporate giant. It can be a small local, restaurant. It can be all sorts of companies. It's just the mindset, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much for the discussion tonight, gentlemen. That's been great. This session will be posted. Faiz will be sending out details to all our friends through our different social links, etc. So anybody
also publishing a report in ICE Business Times also, which we do on
yes. So ICE Business Times kindly publishes all the funny articles that Faiz knows right. Obviously, their editorial policy is be generous to Dave and Faiz. So, so thanks very much, and good luck. Stay safe, and I hope your families are all well and staying safe as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Dave,
you.
Urfi, Fayaz.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Philip. Bye, Faiz.